Hello everyone, this is Jotto and welcome to Versus Series. You're a member of my team, Acebreakers, faces off against a well-known up-and-coming pro player. For this week we have Meta from Acebreakers facing off against AquaBlad, the former team captain of Infused before they disbanded. Now, this episode is ridiculously late. In fact, I think it's a week late, and I also might not be doing one next week, and the reason for that is exams. I've been doing 2 exams a day all this week, and I will be for about half of next week. So, haven't exactly had time to record any videos, and I doubt I'll get one out over the weekend either. So the next time you see a video out of me will probably be a week from now. But anyway, I'm getting this Versus Series episode out finally. So, yeah, we're going to get started with this. Now, bit of a notice is that this was actually, the games themselves were recorded before the latest wing of Black Rock Mountain. However, the latest wing of Black Rock Mountain wasn't very large on constructed staples, so as a result, shouldn't cause that much of a difference. Anyway, without further ado, let's go on to the first game. As usual, this is best of 5 conquest. As we get started, we have Meta bringing out his Paladin against AquaBlad, who has Mage as the opener. So, mulligans wise, what have we got here? Pretty good opening hand there. You got Clockwork Gnome into Mech Warper, and a Neurotron Snow Chugger is an extraordinarily powerful opening. However, we're going to see a shielded mini-bot here. Next turn, shielded mini-bot, and then Culk Hammer. Very good anti-aggro start. As a result, going for that Neurotron, throwing out the 3 hellos on the emote there. Always nice to see when you play a Neurotron. I mean, he does say hello a lot, so you might as well replicate him. Second shielded mini-bot, trading Divine Shields. 3 Romance. Blingatron, interesting. Now, Blingatron is not standard by any regards in Mech Mage. It's always a bit interesting to see him come out. The question is, what's this next turn going to look like? Because Coghammer does not do a fantastic amount here. So you could... The problem with Coghammer is it doesn't really do anything. Knife Juggler at least forces a trade. So, I don't know what's correct there. I mean, you do get the Divine Shield and such, but the problem is if the Snow Chugger hits you, you're in trouble. I think you hit the Mech Warper so that if he trades, he has to trade with the Mech Warper if he wants to hit you with the Snow Chugger, which gets rid of one of the threats. Interesting. We could see Time Rewinder. I think, yeah, that Spider Tank does mean that this is a ping instead of the Water Elemental. Use that 2-1 to trade in, and then use the Snow Chugger, the almighty anti-weapon Gentleman Mech himself. The reason I call Snow Chugger the Gentleman Mech is because he looks like he has a top hat and a moustache. And goggles. It's actually kind of hilarious if you look at him close up. Second Water Elemental. This is turning into the game of no weapons. Yeah, just chaining freezes again and again and again, using that Blingatron. This is more mana efficient, and the intention was to use Snow Chugger to keep attacking the face, so it actually has no consequence as to what that weapon is. I mean, it's Ogre Mole, which is considerably worse than the other weapons that have 4-2 as their abilities, or not abilities, as their stats. This hand, however, is completely atrocious. This has got to the point when I think you consider consecrating just to get rid of the Snow Chugger. Quartermaster is not nice to play out. I can see why, it's because you want the equality consecrate next turn, but it's so awkward. We are going to see a full board clear. The question is it going to matter? There is going to be a Dr. Boom as a response to a board clear. I don't know whether this is going to go anywhere according to plan. I think you just freeze face and then kill the Quartermaster with your mech and your weapon. Okay, going face. I guess he's playing around the quality consecrate play here. Also just kind of realizing that with Dr. Boom you can hit really hard, really fast. He's down to 10 life now. It does mean that a quality consecrate is going to complete the wipe this board, and then there is a 2-1. The 2-1 is fairly relevant against Boom bots. Mostly because it can absorb a hit, as opposed to the fact that it can trade with one. Interesting. I don't think I agree with that. The problem with this is, when are you going to use the equality? And that's game. Bit of a slip up at the end there. I mean, I honestly don't think it would have mattered. If the top deck was Fireball, you would have killed him with Boom anyway. But bit of a slip up at the end of that game, actually, by meta. So anyway, on to game number 2, as we have the reuse of the Paladin up against a Zoo deck, by the looks of it. Warlock Zoo, it could be Demon Lock as well, though. There is some similarities between them. The Hellfire leans towards Demon Lock as opposed to Zoo. Imp Gang Boss being the star of both decks right now. Bane of Doom, this should be interesting. Bane of Doom became so much better than it was previous. Why? Because it can summon any demon now, not just a selected preset. And none of the demons are particularly bad stat-wise, apart from Blood Imp, I guess, but the chance of you getting Blood Imp is drastically less than it used to be. Imp Gang Boss, haven't had that on Versus Series yet, I don't think, and it has really been a star. I played it in a Zoo deck, which I did for Grinding Ladder about a week ago, and it's astonishingly good. It's basically it's just a better Harvest Golem. We do see a True Silver come down here. I think killing off the Mistress is correct. Yeah, the reason for this is because if you kill the 2/4, what happens is that your mech has to then lose its Divine Shield to the 1/1, and you don't reduce its board as significantly. Imp Gang Boss is not particularly easy to deal with, but at least this is slightly more efficient. I think what you do here is, see, tap Egg. I was going to say maybe you Void Cooler, but then you don't have any demons in your hand. So yeah, tap Egg is actually okay here, because this kind of shows that he wants to play a Hellfire in the next couple of turns, since that Shadow Flame was not in hand. Sporting the golden Shadow Flame. Very difficult to recognize upside down. Looks a bit like a Holy type Smite thing, or kind of like a Druid of the Flame actually, but that is in fact a golden Shadow Flame. Top deck, the Aldor Peacekeeper, not the best card to have at the moment. The question is, what do you do here? You can kill off the egg entirely. That's actually quite an interesting play. Do you kill off the egg entirely? You can kill off the egg entirely and then play Coghammer. I think I like that. I think that's actually a pretty decent way of doing things. Yeah, I think that's the play I would go with, was you trade the 2/2 into the egg, you kill the 4/4, and then Coghammer, giving it Divine Shield and Taunt. The other alternatives is things like Consecrate, things like Knife Juggler Hero Power, which is excessively risky against an Imp Gang Boss. Aldor Peacekeeper? I don't know. Yeah, I don't think, like, nothing really happened that turn. That was the problem there, nothing really happened. This is an interesting game because the Demon deck has not exactly drawn particularly well this game. Choosing to not go for the Bane of Doom there. Interesting choice. Could have gone for Bane of Doom on either the Aldor or the 2-1, probably the Aldor. There is a Hellfire opportunity in the next couple turns, which would give him a 4/4 and a 1/1, whereas it would wipe the Paladin's board entirely. So Hellfire is going to be a pretty useful asset in this particular game. Okay, so going for that Abusive Sergeant, and it's going to try and clear up this board as much as possible without using any AoE. So, couple awkward turns going backwards and forwards. This Nerubian is not very scary. In fact, you have a very powerful turn here in the Knife Juggler Muster for Battle, one of the single strongest turn 5 plays the Paladin deck even has access to. This essentially drops 4 damage on the board immediately, 3 in this case because you can't attack the weapon since you already used the True Silver. Bit unlucky on the last roll there, but still very powerful. Adds 6 attack to the board, 7 if you include the weapon, and does 3 damage immediately from the Juggler and 1 from the weapon. So yeah, using the Hellfire there, seeing Quartermaster, really does not want to risk that. If he had Quartermaster in his hand right now and he'd not Hellfire, true, he could have Hellfired the next turn anyway, but he would have taken an excessive amount of damage. So just not worth the risk there. This hand from Aqua is kind of clogging up a bit. There really isn't much you can do with this. I mean, he does have Void Callers. He does have one of his big drops. Going for that Mistress and then probably Void Caller or Defender. Interesting. I mean, I think the thinking here is that you don't want to risk getting Jiraxis on the board, and the reason for that is simply because Jiraxis looks like he's going to be needed for healing and for his hero power, not so much for the big body on the board. The other big drop in this deck, I'm guessing, is probably Mal'Ganis. Mal'Ganis does tend to show up in these demon decks regardless of the build. We do have that big game hunter in the hand of meta to handle a Mal'Ganis when it does come down, but the immunity is still pretty handy if it comes down from a Void Cooler, for example, because it stops an attack swing. The question is, what do you do this turn? You got a couple of options. What you could do, and I think this may be the correct play, is Consecrate, kill the Mistress, kill the Defender, and then you can hero power at the end of it. The other potential plays are things like Coghammer to kill the Mistress of Pain and Sludge Belcher. Sludge Belcher doesn't accomplish that much, being the main problem. Okay, so going for that Coghammer play, I'm playing out the Anoratron because if you go for Coghammer, you have an extra mana hanging around, so instead of 1 leftover mana, you have 2, so you can go for the Anoratron. Lots of hellos being thrown out right now. That is a Thaurissan. Now, that Thaurissan leads me to believe one of two things. Either this is just a value Thaurissan in the deck, which is possible because Bane of Doom. But the other way you can look at this is there may be some sort of damage combo in this particular deck. Again, it could be a value one because Bane of Dooms cost a lot, Shadow Flames cost a lot, things like that. However, there could be some sort of weird and wonderful Arcane Golem or Leroy Jenkins power combo in this particular deck. We will have to see as we see more of this deck. 8 mana Jiraxis is going to be the main thing in that hand that gets reduced. The reason for that is because you can play Jiraxis and hero power on the same turn, which is something almost unheard of. It makes the card a full turn faster, which is a big deal. And if you've had it on the board for 2 turns, you can actually go Jiraxis, hero power, Sun Fury Protector. So, or if you top deck the, if you don't top deck the Sun Fury, it doesn't matter if you top deck Jiraxis. The point is that 0 mana Sun Fury will allow you to taunt it up immediately. However, this deck does not appear to be running the taunts in terms of Sun Fury, it's just the Defender of Argus. Sylvanas, not the best pickup right now. I think what's going to end up happening is that this Sludge Belcher is going to come down, and this Thaurissan is going to get dealt with. The other options are Consecrate, and then deal with the Thaurissan that way. This is it's a bit more card efficient in terms of handling it, and I'm not sure what you're expecting to get out of Consecrate. I think it's being saved for equality. Alright, so not trading into that Defender, going face. This does leave it for Shadow Flame, which could be a potential mistake. These Bane of Dooms have been hanging around for a very long time. That Bane of Doom has been in his hand for almost the entire game at this point. 2 damage just has not been enough to finish off many things in this particular game. Tapping down to 12. Okay. Do have Nerubian Egg. Nerubian Egg, power overwhelming, not Hellfire. Shadow Flame? Can you even do that? Yeah, you can. That's enough mana. The problem is you'd have to trade into it anyway, so going for it this way is a full clear as opposed to a almost full clear. The difference is one of them gives you a 4/4 and the other one gives you an O2 egg. So take your pick as far as that is concerned. At this point, I think the Warlock is favored, but it's harder to call than it looks. I would expect that this is just Sylvanas Hero Power Pass. Actually, do you attack the face here? You do have a True Silver in hand, which you want to use. And if you go Sylvanas Hero Power, attack face, if there's no healing or Duraxis or something, then the True Silver is lethal. So we could definitely see that line of play. This Consecration has been hanging around for a very long time. Consecration does make up for an extra 2 damage, so that's a bit of extra direct right there. I think you have to play Sylvanas. It always sucks when you have to play Sylvanas, but even if it steals the egg, you still get AoE protection, which is relevant against Warlock, more so than most classes, because Warlock plays a bunch of AoEs. They play 3 AoEs at least in each of their builds. As we see, Mal'Ganis. Now, Mal'Ganis is going to get Big Game Hunter being the key issue. So, what do you do here? There is a Juraxis, there's 2 Bane of Dooms. I think we're going to see Juraxis if he's tapping here. Yeah. Personally, I would have preferred to see Juraxis Hero Power instead, and the reason for that is because if you use a Sylvanas to trade in, you can Bane of Doom the 6/1 if he steals it, and if he doesn't, it clears the board entirely. So that's why I would prefer the Juraxis Infernal as opposed to the tap into Juraxis. This is a lot of damage. I think that may cost him the game, actually. I think that has cost him the game. Is there no way out of this? There's a Big Game Hunter for that Mal'Ganis. That's game over. Yeah, not tapping there actually lost him the game. That's insane. That's crazy. Yeah, I think he may have survived. Let's see, if he played Infernal, if he'd hit face instead, putting him at 5, then he could attack the Thaurissan. No, attack Sylvanas, see what it steals. If it steals the Infernal, I think he's dead. However, if it steals the egg, you can Implosion and Bane of Doom, the other one. Involves a bit of RNG, but you could still live. Yeah, I think that may have been a misplay that cost him the game. Interesting. Well, I mean, not definitely. There was definitely some RNG at the end there, but I think that particular misplay did take away his chances at winning the game. So, bit of an unexpected rushdown victory from our Paladin. Not something you see every day. On to game number 3, as Meta has tied up the series 1-1. We do see the infamous Mech Mage against the Demon Lock once again, as we also see Spectator Mode with all of its card bugs at the beginning. It's kind of amusing how these are still around, where the hand will just shift out randomly, and sometimes when you jump into Spectator Mode, it'll show you all the individual cards and they'll overlap with each other, and it's a bit weird. Speaking of interesting, this is a ridiculous start from this Mech Mage deck. Mech Warper, Gnome. What's nuts about this is that Dark Bomb kills that, but that doesn't even slow the deck down at all. Mechanical Yeti might be slightly better than Tinker Town Technician when it's on the board, but Not by much. The damage is still the same, and the spare part he got actually just made Tinkertown Technician into a one-sided mechanical Yeti. Well, kind of. It made it into a Chillwind Yeti. This is a very hard to stop board. Do you coin Voidwalker? Not Voidwalker, Voidcaller. Always get annoyed about all the voids. There's a Void Terror, Walker, and Caller, and everyone gets them confused. If they add another Void Demon, I'm going to be very irritated. So yeah, you have to go for the Void Caller, just hope it stems the bleeding a bit. Second Yeti. Okay, you definitely play Yeti here and just hit him in the face for 9? That's crazy. This is a lot of damage. As we're sitting on turn 4 in this game number 3, and the Warlock from AquaBlad is on 13 life. Not going particularly well. So the question is, how do you handle this board? Can you handle this board? You can implosion the Cogmaster. I think you implosion the Cogmaster. No, I think you have to implosion the Tinkertown. This is weird. So there's a Power Overwhelming in hand. There's also 2 demons, none of which are particularly high impact. So you have to implosion one threat and take out the other. I think you try and limit the damage as much as possible. And the most damage you can reduce is 5. Yeah, 5. So I think what you do is you take out the 2 1-drops. That's not an easy turn to make though. Is there any way of wiping out both mechs? I don't think so. No. Actually, there's Power Overwhelming. Is there anything that can be done with that? No, you can't go Implosion as well. So yeah, just killing both 1-drops. Reversal Switch. Does that? No, that's not lethal in any way. Alright, so I was just thinking that's 10, 11 damage with Reversal. So Mirror Entity, and then Plating Reverse. I think what I like here is plating the 4/5 on Neurotron, ping one of the 1/1s. Not the 4/5, the 4/4. You could also just slam another Yeti and then plating your 4/4 and then hit the face. There's a couple of lines here. The safest one is plating a Neurotron ping. There's also Mirror Entity ping. Mirror Entity a Neurotron. Yeah, that bit's a given. So he's going for the Mechanical Yeti and plating. You could actually go for a Reversal Switch on the 2/3. I think plating is safer. Yeah. Going for that plating and sticking it on the 4/6. Interesting. That's actually a big mistake. If there was a Hellfire, it would be a board wipe. That's a really big mistake. So basically, it needed to go on the 4/4 because is there any way of hellfiring that? I don't think so. No, if you put it on the 4/4, then the Voidwalker walks into 1, and then the health and the 2 imps walk into the other Yeti, and then the last imp into the 4/3, and then that gets destroyed. Now, he did not actually get the Doom Guard, which would have completely stemmed the bleeding here. And as a result, it's game over on a 50-50 flip, and that's really painful. Did not play around Hellfire at the end there, but it did not matter because he did not have the Hellfire. And did lose out on that 50-50 flip. Basically, Doomguard versus the Imp Gang boss. If Doomguard had come out, that was a full board clear. I think. Yeah, it was. It was a full board clear with Power Overwhelming Doomguard, and as a result would not have taken all that damage. However, he would have been dead to 2 pings and a frostbolt, so I'm not sure if that would have even... I think the game would have still gone towards the mage because neither Firebolt or Frostbolt had been drawn yet. As we have 3rd times the charm for this Demon Warlock, I guess one way of approaching it with Conquest is you kind of have to win with every deck anyway, so you might as well just keep going. But now we have Wild Growth. Now, weird thing is that the coin Wild Growth is very rarely correct. I think in this case it is correct, and the reason is because there's a 5-drop. The other approach is going turn 2, turn 3 Wild Growth, and then curving out. So this does make your... She doesn't? See, you go to 4, 6. You could go Ancient Allure on turn 4. I mean, he drew the Innervate, so... Still technically drawn on turn... What was that, turn 3 with the Innervate? But if you stagger them, instead of using coin and use the coin on the lore, you could go turn 3. No, not turn 3, turn 4 lore, but it's a bit risky. The question is, what do you do here? I think there's a couple of options. You can go Druid of the Claw or Loatheb. I think Loatheb is the higher impact card, especially considering the board state right now. You can slam Loatheb and hit him in the face for probably 15. I mean, Druid 5/5s. 5/5 is not to be underestimated. They are huge. Second Voidcaller and sacking the other one to bring out Jiraxis. That's a Jiraxis. It's the only thing that can come out actually if he sacks one of these. Not going for it. You need to take these out eventually. Oh dear. Is this an Innervate Cenarius? This is an Innervate Cenarius. That's 14 damage. He's going to go to 9. Incredibly fast start on the side of meta. Last time he was on Versus Series, I think he got the worst Druid draw I've ever seen. Playing a similar deck, and this is just running Aqua over. No way of answering this Loatheb Cenarius draw. That's crazy. I think is that game over? No, there's 2 power overwhelmings. Yeah, I can deal with this. You can go double power overwhelming and then straight up conceding. I mean, I think he was still dead, but I don't know. Like, I think he was still dead. Let's see. So it was double power overwhelming, brings out Jiraxis. So he had 6 mana. He could double power overwhelming and then... See, what was in his hand? Like, Defender of Argus, or... There was a lot of things that could have saved him there. I mean, he didn't know there was a swipe in hand. I think Meta would have had lethal anyway, simply because of swiping Druid of the Claw, which would have eventually got through enough damage. But wasn't actually dead there, because he could have had some sort of board clear. So anyway, so that was 4 games. Most notably, that was Demon Lock losing 3 times in a row. Which sometimes happens. That's the thing with Conquest, is you have to win with all your decks. It's not like deck elimination, where if you have a weakest deck, it's okay if you can't win with it, because your other decks kind of carry through. So you do have to win with every single deck you have, and Demon Lock just did not work against those 3 decks. Although there were a few mistakes which probably caused the at least one of the losses, or maybe 1 or 2 of the losses in some regard on the side of the Warlock. But, I mean, I'm not going to antagonize Aqua that much for this because everyone makes mistakes. I mean, Meta made quite a few as well. The thing is, whenever you're casting one of these games, you notice them way more than they do while playing. And that's just a rule of thumb. If you notice a misplay by watching someone, it's much easier when you're not playing. Because when you're playing, you're thinking about 1,000,001 different things. And when you're spectating, even though you try and take a point of view saying, alright, I don't know his hand, just because you saw a card that he should be playing around means that you're thinking about it, so you make less mistakes while watching instead of playing. It's just kind of how it works. But anyway, As for the 4 games, we did have Mech Mage taking 2 incredibly fast victories on either side, running over a Paladin and a Warlock respectively. Very fast deck. Demon Lock did not do fantastically, although we did see an astonishingly good draw from Druid. That was crazy. That was double Wild Growth, Innervate Lore, Loatheb, Innervate Cenarius. It was one of the fastest draws I think I've ever seen, especially on this show. I don't think we've had a faster Druid start than that on Versus Series before. It was crazy. Which, as I said, does kind of make up for Meta's luck last time he was on Versus Series, which is, I think he was playing Ramp Druid and drew all the ramp cards and nothing to ramp into. It was one of the worst draws I've ever seen. So Meta now holds the achievement for both worst and best draw in Druid probably ever on Versus Series. So that's an achievement. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put it in the comment section below. The deck lists that both players used will be in the description as usual. And you can probably expect another video out of me about a week from now. As I said at the beginning of the video, I have exams, so I don't really know when I'll be able to put out the next video. I don't think it'll be before my exam period ends, so it'll probably be next Wednesday or Thursday. Let's hope for the best. But anyway, as for now, this has been Jotto, signing off.